Moses Bear Zulu Sierra Zulu is rolling runway 28 for right turn on. Moses Bear.
Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode. I'm flying today to test out trim servo, a speed control that I added to my trim servo yesterday. It was a little too fast reacting on the trim. So by adding this servo, it slows things down a little when I press on the trim up or trim down for the elevator. So that's what I'm doing out here. As you can see, it's not the most beautiful day. It is a smooth day. And there are things that you have to be careful, especially now that winter is coming. Also, what this episode is about is the things that you're going to do during the winter to prepare for your winter flying. All right, so let's get to it.
One of the things that's important before winter is changing your oil. Whether you decide to store the plane for the winter or actually keep on flying it, changing that oil does have benefits. One, if you're in a cold hangar, you won't have to change it in the middle of winter. Possibly, depending on how much flying you do, of course. If you store the plane through the winter, it's important because the contaminants that might be inside the engine may cause rusting of sorts or cause corrosion within the engine compartment. So it's always good to flush that stuff out. And don't forget, take your plane up flying, warm up the engine, then drain that oil and get all those contaminants out of there. And if you are going to store it for the winter, always good to add some sort of additive inside the engine compartment. I used to add an additive in the plane. I keep flying it through the winter, but I switched to Aeroshell W Plus series of oils. Therefore, always sort of protected because it's supposed to replace those things like CamGuard. So I've read. So in my particular case, I usually fly in the summer with the 100 W Plus, and in the winter, I change it up to the 80 W Plus. Now, there are two schools of thought on this. One is if you're in a heated hangar anyways, your starts are always easier, if you will, because you're taking your airplane out of a heated hangar, in my particular case. Therefore, I bring it outside, start up the engine, and go on with life. But if you are stopping over somewhere overnight and it sits outside for an extended period of time, that rougher start in the morning can be a problem if you've got that 100 W plus in my case. I've never experienced those problems. I usually, in the winter, especially in the winter, never fly anywhere. The plane never sits outside, but I still do switch it up with the 80 versus the 100 in the summer. So, your choice. Read up on it and see what's best for you. Something else I recommend, whether you're inside a hangar or outside, are covers. The reason outside is obvious because it'll keep that snow and possibility of ice away from the controls, especially all those nuts and bolts. Make sure everything is always protected and easier to clean after a snowfall when you go outside and just pass a big broom over those Cessna wings, if you've got Cessna wings or low wing like mine. But even if you are indoors, I think you should make some covers. The reason being for me is because these heaters in the hangar start to blow all the dust that's in the cement floored hangar all over the place. And I spend a lot of time in the winter just, I only fly weekends when it's nice, obviously, because I've got a day job. And every time I come to the hangar after a week, or sometimes it ends up being 2 weeks that I don't fly, I spend a lot of time, cleaning dust off the plane just because of what the heaters do here. So I created here behind me some wing covers made out of simple fabric. Cost me about $80 of fabric. Sewed it up myself, and it just covers the entire plane and keeps that dust off. Another thing that's extremely important is the battery. Of course, you can't start the plane without a good battery. I'm speaking from personal experience here. Once I thought to myself, well, the battery's been doing fine through the summer. Winter's coming. I don't fly much in the winter. Is it really necessary to spend that, whatever, $300 and some odd dollars for a brand new battery right now? I'll wait till spring. You do not want to end up at a fly-in breakfast and your plane just doesn't want to start, and then you got to find somebody with jumper cables to help you start that engine, or you have to hand prop it. So my recommendation is, if you've been dragging your heels on replacing that battery, do so before winter comes in. Clean your airplane. That's right. No winter bugs. The actual dirt and grime which may be left on your airplane from after a summer's flying season will actually attract, or could give ice and snow something to grab onto. So important to keep it clean. If you have the ability to do so, wax the plane. That makes it a lot better. Makes that snow and ice fall off easier, supposedly. I've never waxed an airplane in the past, but I've been doing a lot of reading, and it turns out it's a thing. Not for me, because I can't wax this fiberglass plane that has vinyl on it. When winter comes, we want to keep warm, and the heating system on a lot of airplanes rely on a shroud that sits over the exhaust itself. So in my particular plane, what happens is, in the summer, I block off any of that air inlet that would come into the aircraft as heat. So even if I turned on cabin heat in the summer, I wouldn't get any heated air coming into the cockpit. So once I unblock it, it's important that before winter comes, possibly remove that shroud, make sure the exhaust is fine, because if there's a crack or anything in that exhaust covered section that you normally have, that carbon poisoning or monoxide poisoning would come right in and take care of you right then and there. The other thing that's also important is, if you've got a carbon monoxide indicator of sorts right now, Lightspeed's got it in the headset, and I fly with the CO detector on my GPS receiver. So that takes care of itself. But if you've got anything that's battery operated that does check carbon monoxide for carbon monoxide poisoning, good time to make sure that that's updated. Your batteries are fresh and everything is ready to go. Next, it's important to keep your wing tanks full. This is a me thing. I know a lot of folks do this. Cessna guys do this a lot. The idea is behind it is that if you've got tanks that are only a quarter full or half full, you've got that space inside the tank that you've got the possibility of some sort of condensation that forms in there, thus obviously creating water in the tanks or in your fuel, making its way to your engine and makes it burp all day long, or worse, stop. So they say that if you fill up your tanks all the way, you reduce that possibility. In my particular case, I rarely ever fly without full tanks. So I'll fly a couple of hours max before I fill up those tanks again. My plane will never get parked overnight without the tanks being pretty close to full. So that's my way of doing things. You do what you like, but that's my suggestion. Let's also not forget about safety gear. In my particular case, in the winter, I actually fly with my running shoes on. But what I do is I keep a pair of boots in the back, and obviously gloves and winter coat. But it's important to carry in the plane stuff that'll help you survive should your aircraft go down in some unknown area. And in winter, the unknown area, for those of us who have snow and cold, means that things that'll keep me warm. Besides your regular survival gear that you may or may not carry in an aircraft, depending on where you fly, keeping those winter boots like I do, or a pair of gloves, reflective material to keep you warm should you go down, that extra radio, which you should be carrying around anyways, no matter what time of the year you fly. So that's the tip. Bring some extra stuff to make sure that you're ready for that winter problem that may and hopefully never occur.
Okay, so that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. You've got some tips to share with everyone else. Don't be shy. Put the comments down below. I'm sure it'll be helpful to everyone else. All right. So we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for joining me.